Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video here we're going to be discussing a couple of things, including a couple of signings, waiver updates, injury updates, and a couple of trade rumors involving the Pittsburgh Penguins, the Detroit Red Wings, the Carolina Hurricanes, and the goalie market. We have a little bit more of a clearer picture of what's happening in the goalie market. We'll get to all of that coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the N10 Hockey Channel. Now, before we get into this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe down below. We have hit 200 subscribers. Thank you for all of your support. I would never been able to do this without you guys. Don't forget to continue to subscribe so we can hit the 250 subscribers. And Happy New Year to everyone, as we have now hit 2024. We've left 2023 behind us, and we're now looking forward to 2024 as it's now here, as we have now hit the new year, as this is going to be my second video of 2024. So we'll get into that right now. But going over to a quick news update here for this video, we're going to start off like we usually do with a couple of signings that have happened over the past couple of days. Only one signing over the past couple of days, and that was the Vegas Golden Knights to sign another ELC. As the Knights to sign third round pick in the 2023 draft, center right winger Matthew Cataford to a 3-year ELC with an AV of $855,000, and the deal will begin at the start of next year. So that was a really good pickup last year. I thought Cataford could have been a guy who goes in maybe the late second, but he was the guy who went in the third round for the Vegas Golden Knights, so that was a really good pickup in my opinion for the Golden Knights. He looks like he's going to be a very fantastic, possibly top 9 forward at NHL level eventually. Right now he's probably still got a couple of years left to develop, probably still going to need a year or two in juniors, probably a year in the minors, so he's probably still 2 or 3 years away. But so far last year he had 31 goals and 75 points in 68 games, was an absolute beast over in the QMJHL. This year he's done even better. He's put up 23 goals and 55 points in only 38 games, so he's played about half of his games, just a little bit over, and he's already killing last year's point total. So as long as Cataford stays healthy, he's bound to break last year's point total records. He looks like a very fantastic forward, and I think Vegas is going to be extremely lucky to have him when he's ready to get to NHL. So really good ELC in my opinion for the Golden Knights. So Cataford's having himself a really good season. He's on pace to probably hit, I'd say, around 80-90 points this year in the QMJHL. He looks to be a very fantastic player. I think he could definitely be a solid middle six forward in a couple of years' time. So like I said, still going to need to stay in juniors for a couple of years, probably still going to need a year in the minors, so he's not going to be contending for an NHL roster spot anytime soon, but this is a really good ELC. I think in time Cataford will be a solid NHL forward. So really good signing there for the Golden Knights to sign one of their young prospects to a new ELC. So Cataford's definitely improved in the QMJHL, and he looks fantastic, and he's going to be a very fantastic addition there for the Vegas Golden Knights in a couple of years' time. So that's the only thing we have to discuss here today. Going over to a quick waiver update here. When we were talking on Saturday, we said that Ian Mitchell, who's a defenseman with the Boston Bruins, had been placed on waivers, and we had yet to say if he cleared or not, given the fact that when we were recording that video, we had not known at that point in time. Well, he did indeed clear. I thought he might, given the fact he cleared earlier in this season in October, so I'm not overly surprised. I thought maybe the only way he would get claimed is if there was 1 or 2 teams who could maybe use a defensive upgrade like Mitchell to try and improve on their defense that they have right now, but no one wound up claiming him, so Mitchell will go down to the minors. Not too surprising there. The Bruins have a lot of solid defensemen, so not overly surprised that Mitchell cleared and he's going to go back down to the AHL. But we saw 2 really good waiver updates here over the past couple of days. Both happened on Sunday, and they were both involving big-time goaltenders. First, the Toronto Maple Leafs wound up waiving Ilya Samsonov on waivers on Sunday, and the Buffalo Sabres wound up waiving goaltender Eric Comrie on waivers on Sunday. So those were 2 really interesting names, 2 names who we've been hearing in the trade rumor mill. Comrie had recently made mention that he had been a little bit frustrated with the fact that he doesn't really know when he's getting playing time with the 3-headed goalie system in Buffalo. So there was a lot of talk that Comrie could have been moved or possibly placed on waivers like we saw on Sunday. Same thing with Toronto Maple Leafs. Samsonov was not done overly well. So with his poor play this year, Samsonov's been placed on the waivers. I'm not overly surprised that happened either. And both team players wound up being cleared. Now, I'm not surprised Samsonov or Comrie wound up clearing waivers. We saw Ranta clear waivers a couple of weeks ago, where he was making $1.5 million and is a decent backup. Samsonov's not playing like a backup at this point in time, and is making $3.5 million. So even if he was playing a little bit better, I don't think any team would take Samsonov's contract on the waiver wire. For Comrie, he has not played overly well this year too, and hasn't gone into an overabundance of games, and his cap is higher than Ranta as well. So given the fact Ranta cleared, I think that made it a little bit more easier for teams like Toronto and Buffalo to place these guys on waivers, and they both wound up clearing. So not overly surprised that both these guys wound up clearing. Like I said, Samsonov's cap, it really does hurt any team that's sort of trying to acquire him on the waiver wire, so I'm not overly surprised he wound up clearing. Apparently the Leafs have a plan for Samsonov. He's going to start practicing, but he's not going to get into any AHL game action for the next little while, so it'll be interesting to see if Samsonov's going to be able to get back up to speed, and maybe he comes back to Toronto in the next couple of weeks and looks a lot more like last year's Samsonov instead of this year's Samsonov. So it'll be interesting to see. Comrie, I think, was just the victim of a three-headed goalie system. They still have Luukkonen and Levi that they're still trying to hope that they can save their season, so there's not really any room for Comrie. So they'll probably assume a starting role in the AHL and get some playing time, which is huge for Comrie, so really good stuff there. And if they run into injuries, Comrie can come back up. So that's really good stuff there. But Comrie was placed on waivers and cleared. Not overly surprised there. Like I said, he's making $1.8 million. He's more of a backup / third stringer at this point in time, so not overly surprised that he wound up clearing, and Buffalo does wind up keeping him. And same thing with Toronto. Samsonov's not played overly well this year. He was leapfrogged by Joseph Woll earlier in the season as the team's starter, and then when Joseph Woll went down with injury, he was leapfrogged by Martin Jones to be the team starter. So he has not played overly well. You can't be paying a $3.5 million goaltender to be your third string goaltender, so he goes on waivers. He's hopefully going to get some time in the AHL after the Leafs enact their plan, and hopefully he's able to gain some confidence and start playing a little bit better in the AHL. So it'll be interesting to see. But those are two waiver updates. Samsonov, Comrie both placed on waivers on Sunday. They cleared yesterday. There have been no new players being placed on waivers after that, so it'll be interesting to see. But I'm not overly surprised that these two guys are placed on waivers and cleared, and hopefully they can refine their game in the AHL. So it'll be interesting to see. Then we go over to a quick injury update here from the past couple of days. Lots of interesting injury updates from the past few days. First, the Anaheim Ducks, Troy Terry is out day-to-day right now with an upper body injury. Jacob Trouba has been cleared to play by the New York Rangers, so that's really good news there for New York. Going into a couple of other injury updates. Vinny Lettieri is out with a lower body injury and is out day-to-day, so it's a bad injury news for the Minnesota Wild. For the Montreal Canadiens, Christian Dvorak has an upper body injury. He's out for an unknown period of time. For the New Jersey Devils, Timo Meier has an undisclosed injury. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, Connor Sheary has a hand injury. Both are out for an unknown period of time, so that's really bad news there. But the Buffalo Sabres have Zemgus Girgensons cleared to play. The San Jose Sharks have Ty Emberson cleared to play. And then also cleared to play is the Islanders Semyon Varlamov and Scott Mayfield, Oilers Evander Kane, and Anaheim Ducks Radko Gudas. So really good news there for some of those teams. Then yesterday we saw a lot of injury updates. Jesper Fast has an undisclosed injury. He's going to be out for an period of time. Tyler Johnson has an undisclosed injury out for an period of time, as well as Eric Chernak and Hayden Fleury. All of them have undisclosed injuries out for an period of time. Mario Ferraro has an upper body injury out for an period of time. For Washington, Lindgren has an upper body injury in his day-to-day. TJ Oshie has an upper body injury in his day-to-day. Max Pacioretty's Achilles injury has been reduced to only day-to-day, so that's really good news for the Capitals. And then Sonny Milano's upper body injury is going to keep him out week to week, so that's a really bad blow for the Capitals. And then Philip Gustafsson and Kirill Kaprizov's injuries have been updated. Kaprizov is going to be out for the next 2 weeks with upper body injury, while Gustafsson's out week to week right now with a lower body injury. So it's really bad news there for the Wild. Well, today we did find out that Jerome Moser in Arizona is going to be probably returning to play, hopefully if not this game, in the next game, as he's been cleared to play. So really good stuff there for the Arizona Coyotes. But that's all the injury of this in the past couple of days. Definitely lots of interesting stuff, but nothing overly significant. So it'll be interesting to see. And lastly here, going over to the trade rumor portion of the video. So first we're going to start with the Pittsburgh Penguins. I've heard this a couple of times. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this. Do the Pittsburgh Penguins wind up being sellers? Do the Pittsburgh Penguins wind up trading Jake Guentzel? I've heard this a couple of times. I've seen this from a couple sources, starting with Chris Johnston's trade bait board. I've also seen this from a couple of other places, but the Penguins have not done overly well to start the season. Now, they've started to pick up the pace as of late. They're starting to play a little bit better, which is good news for Pittsburgh Penguins, given the fact that they really need this to go well for them. So it will be interesting to see, but Pittsburgh started to pick up the pace as of late, so maybe these sort of rumors start to die down. But if the Pittsburgh Penguins are not doing overly well and they're out of a playoff spot by a trade deadline, there's a lot of talk that the Pittsburgh Penguins could wind up being sellers. And if they are sellers, would they consider Jake Guentzel being traded? Now, I think it's possible, given the fact he's a pending UFA, but I also would say it's not guaranteed. Guentzel has played extremely well with Sidney Crosby throughout his entire career. Guentzel, though, we heard some reports in the offseason that he probably wants around $10 million AAV deal. Will the Penguins really be willing to go an 8-year, $10 million AAV deal if they already have guys like Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Carlson, Raquel, Rust, all on long-term, high-money, expensive deals. I'm not exactly sure. So I know they really would like to keep Guentzel. I know Crosby really likes playing with Guentzel. He's a really good buddy of his. So I think those two really have good chemistry, and it will be smart to keep those two together. But if they aren't able to pay that sort of an asking price of $10 million AAV, would they be willing to trade him? I think it's possible. Could they possibly move him at the trade deadline? They would definitely be able to get quite a haul if you move Guentzel, who's a proven 40-goal scorer, proven playoff producer, who can definitely help a team's top six. There would be a ton of interest, and a team who needs some more top six help at the deadline would definitely be willing to pay the Pittsburgh Penguins for that piece, who could definitely help them in the playoffs. So it will be interesting to see. I think there would be some interest in Guentzel, and I think there's a possibility Guentzel could be moved by the Pittsburgh Penguins, but it would not be a guarantee in my opinion. I think they would still rather keep him with Crosby and try and sign him to somewhat of a reasonable deal. But if he hits the free agent market, he's gonna hit $10 million, if not more. So I'm not overly surprised if the Penguins aren't able to afford that sort of money, aren't able to keep him around, and they maybe do try and trade him. So we'll be interested to see. But I think Guentzel most likely will probably wind up staying, just given the fact that him and Crosby have really good chemistry. But if they have absolutely no possibility of signing him long term to an extension, I think there's a possibility they could trade Guentzel, and he could bring like a first round pick, top end prospect, and maybe another really good piece there at the trade deadline. So it'll be interesting to see. But Guentzel is a name who's been getting a little bit of rumors around him over the past couple of weeks, and it could be a name we watch out for leading up to the trade deadline. Going over to the Detroit Red Wings, could we see them possibly flip Patrick Kane? We know that the Red Wings were able to sign Patrick Kane to a 1-year, $2.75 million deal. It was a really good deal for both them and Kane. Kane, since coming over, has been absolutely fantastic. He has been a huge producer on the Detroit Red Wings forward group, so he's been absolutely phenomenal. But on top of that, the team behind him has not done overly well. Their defense is not overly great. They've had some goaltending injuries. They're back down to only one game above 500, and they're out of a playoff spot, so they're in a really difficult predicament right now. And there was a lot of talk when Kane signed that there was a little bit of an agreement in place that if the Red Wings were to fall out of a playoff spot and did not look like they were going to meet the playoffs this year, that Kane could get traded at the deadline. And it's quite possible that it does wind up happening with the way Detroit has played over the past couple of days. Now, will there be a lot of interest in Kane? I think there is a possibility that there will be a ton of interest in Kane, just given the fact that Kane's been a really, really good scoring forward ever since landing in Detroit. He's been absolutely phenomenal playing with the Brinkets. So I definitely think that if there's a team out there who could definitely use Kane, I think there would definitely be some interest in him. He's a solid, at this point in time, probably middle six forward who's definitely producing really, really well. If the Red Wings were able to retain half of his salary, there would be a ton of takers on that. So possibly I could see some teams have interest in Kane, probably some of the same teams who were in on him at the trade deadline, probably a team like Buffalo, New York at some points, Toronto, Edmonton, Colorado, Dallas, Vegas are some of the teams who I could see. Boston as well possibly have some interest in trying to acquire Patrick Kane. So it's going to be another name we have to watch out for over the next little while leading up to a trade deadline. Kane's a really, really good, talented player. He's someone who's definitely shown at this point in time he's still can play at a high level. He's not been slowed down by the injuries. So definitely, Kane looks really good at this point in time. He's producing really well at Detroit. I think if Detroit's still in the playoff hunt come trade deadline time, then he maybe stays in Detroit, tries to help them make the playoffs. But if there are a couple of points out of playoff spots by the trade deadline, I think there's a possibility Kane could wind up being moved. So we'll be interested to see. But Kane is another guy who we have to watch out for. Like I said, I think it's not a guarantee, but we did hear some talk when Kane signed with Detroit that if the Red Wings were out of playoff spots by the time the trade deadline came around, that Kane could be a possible trade deadline acquisition. It sounded like Steve Yzerman and Kane had already talked about that, and it seems like it's a lot more likely now than it was before, with the Red Wings possibly slipping out of a playoff spot. So not great news there. But the Red Wings, with him having not too high of a cap, I think could get a decent return of like a third or fourth round pick. So it'll be interesting to see. But the Red Wings could wind up flipping Kane at the deadline. He's going to be a name we have to watch out for the next little while. Then going over to the Carolina Hurricanes, apparently we'll get to the goaltending updates here from the past couple of days, but there was a lot of talk recently. From the mention on Saturday Night Headlines on Saturday that when he was talking about the goaltending market and he was looking about the Carolina Hurricanes, he did say that he found out that Michael Bunting's name came up in trade talks as possible contract that could go if Carolina was to acquire a goaltender, and it seems that there is some interest in Michael Bunting. Bunting recently signed this past offseason a 3-year contract with I think an AAV of like $4.15 million. So he got a really big payday from the Carolina Carolina Hurricanes, but he hasn't worked out overly good so far. He started out really well in the top 6, but since then he's really been more of a bottom 6 forward. He's gotten 8 goals on the season, not an overabundance of points, and definitely not someone worth $4 million. So if he was able to be traded to another team where he's able to get a little bit more of an opportunity in like a top 6 role, I think there would be a ton of interest in him. But at $4 million, I think it's a little bit of an expensive contract. But I think Bunting is a solid middle 6 forward, someone who is also very annoying to play in the playoffs. So if there was a team out there who could help Carolina clear some cap space by taking on Michael Bunting, I think they would be willing to do that. Now, like I said, Bunting makes a $4.15 million cap space. It's also not a rental. He signed a 3-year deal this offseason, so he's got this year plus 2 more seasons. But he could also be a solid playoff performer. And if that's the player that the Carolina Hurricanes have to move to acquire a goaltender or a huge upgrade, I think they would be willing to do that. So it'll be interesting to see. But apparently Michael Bunting's name has been coming up over the past little while. His name could be possibly out there. We know the Carolina Hurricanes is looking for goaltending help, so if they are to get goaltending help, they may need to move a contract out, and maybe Michael Bunting is the guy who does it, given the fact that he's more of a bottom 6 forward, and it's really hard to be paying a bottom 6 forward $4 million. So it'll be interesting to see, but it sounds like there is some interest, and I think a team who's destined to go to the playoffs, possibly not only this year, but for the next couple of years, and could use a sort of physical type forward who can put up some points in the middle 6, like a Bunting, I think there'll be lots of interest. So it'll be interesting to see, but that's sort of the update there for the Carolina Hurricanes. And lastly here, going over to a quick goalie update. Now, also on the Saturday Night Headlines segment on Hockey Night in Canada, Elliot Friedman was breaking down the goaltending market. He said that there were sort of 5 buyers on the goalie market right now, 5 sellers on the goalie market right now, and 3 teams who have not yet decided whether they're going to sell or buy at this point in time, or sort of in precarious situations right now that sort of hold them from stopping and moving a goaltender. So at this point in time, there are 5 teams he's linked to are possibly looking to buy a goaltender. 1 was the Maple Leafs, 2 was the Oilers, 3 the Devils, 4 the Hurricanes, and 5 the Kings. We know the Carolina Hurricanes and usually Devils are 2 of the teams who a lot of people pick to win the Metro, and a lot of people pick to go to the Stanley Cup Final. These 2 teams have been hindered by bad goaltending all season long. Ranta, Kochetkov have not done overly well since the Anderson injury, and there's still a lot of talk about Anderson's uncertainty, so you can't guarantee Anderson's going to be back for the Carolina Hurricanes. For the New Jersey Devils, they sent Akira Schmid down before the new year, called Nico Dawes to see what they have in the minors. So with Schmid now being sent down to the minors, and there's a very likely possibility the Devils look to try and add a goaltender, whether it be Gibson, Allen, or someone else. There's a lot of talk that they're going to try and add something, so I'm not really surprised that the Devils and the Canes are really looking for goaltending upgrades. Both these teams need them. If you look at the Leafs, Samsonov has done pretty atrocious this year. Now, Wool's been a really good starter. I think they would still like Martin Jones to be the 3rd stringer, so I think they would be willing to move Samsonov and sort of acquire a more veteran type tandem goaltender who could work well. I think Samsonov-Woll tandem would have been good this year if Samsonov had been playing well, but since Samsonov has not been playing well, it's not been overly great. So I think the Leafs would definitely not want to spend a whole bunch of money on adding a goaltender, given the fact that they would probably want to add their defense a little bit more. But I think if they could get a veteran like sort of backup or 1B goaltender, I think that's what they would be looking for. If you look at the Edmonton Oilers, their goaltending has done all right over the past couple of games, but it hasn't been fantastic. Skinner's still doing pretty good. Pickett's done all right, but they still need a goalie upgrade in my opinion. Campbell's not looked overly good. I think they're still going to try and move Campbell. There's also been possible talks about buyout, so it will be interesting to see, but Edmonton's going to try and add a goaltender. I mean, Skinner's doing really well this year, but what happened last year when they overused Skinner? Skinner ran out of gas in the playoffs. So I think there's a very likely chance that they will try and add a goaltender, at least a tandem goaltender, to sort of take a little bit of the pressure off of Skinner, so it'll be interesting to see there. And also on top of that, Elliot Friedman did say on the headlines that LA's looking for more of a depth option, and probably my guess would be looking for someone who can sort of replace Copley in the short term. I'm not sure if they have a whole bunch of confidence in Riddick, so even though there were a lot of talk and a lot of speculation that they would be looking for a major goalie upgrade this trade deadline, there's now a lot of talk that there's probably going to be only looking for like a short-term backup solution to try and help fill in the hole of Copley. So it'll be interesting to see there. Then Elliot Friedman also mentioned the 5 teams who are currently on the seller market and are looking to move a goaltender. 1 is the Canadiens, 2 is the Ducks, 3 is the Jackets, 4 is the Hawks, and 5 are the Sharks. We know the Canadiens have a 3-headed goalie monster. We know Montembeau's not going anywhere. It doesn't sound like Primo's going anywhere. It sounds like Allen's the most likely to be dealt, and it sounds like it will happen in the not too distant future. Where he goes goes, it's really hard to decide. But he's got this year plus next year a $3.75 million cap hit. A lot of people, according to Elliot Friedman, are saying that Kent Hughes has a price on what he wants for a goaltender, and it sounds like he's willing to waiver a little bit, but not a whole bunch. So it sounds like he is willing to move a goaltender, but unless they meet the asking price, it probably won't happen. So it'll be interesting to see if Hughes does move a goaltender for the Canadians. We know that Gibson wants out of Anaheim. We know there's a possibility that the Ducks could trade him. Apparently, there's a huge asking price for Gibson right now, according to Elliot Friedman. So it would be a difficult trade to do, especially if the team wanted the Ducks to retain salary. It's going to be an interesting situation to watch out, because we know we've talked about Gibson over the past couple of years. I know a lot of people are tired if you're in the rumors, but I still think Gibson will get moved at some point. It's just a matter of time. On top of that, they also mentioned Columbus, Chicago, and San Jose. Columbus, like we said, could move depth option like Spencer Martin. They have a 3-to goalie monster right now, so moving Martin makes sense. They could also look to move Merzlikins. We have heard some talk about them possibly separating with Merzlikins and possibly giving him a fresh start, so that's another situation we have to watch out for. In Chicago and San Jose, those are two more depth options. Chicago has pending UFA Peter Mrazek. San Jose has pending UFA Kaapo Kähkönen. Both guys are possible, decent, at the very least, backup options for a team who's going on a playoff run. So I could see those guys get moved given the fact they're pending UFAs. So it'll be interesting to see, but given the fact the Sharks and the Blackhawks are two of the lowest teams in the NHL, it wouldn't overly surprising if they were to move a couple of pending UFA goaltenders. So we'll be interested to see, but I'm not overly surprised that any of those teams are sellers. And we'll be interested to see if any of those guys get moved. Teams who have not decided yet at this point in time are the Panthers, the Flames, and the Red Wings. According to Friedman, the Flames are just not ready yet to move a goaltender. They still have Vladar. They're still in the playoff hunt, so they're not overly confident in moving Vladar. So the Flames are not ready yet to move Vladar at this point in time. For the Florida Panthers, he said that Stolarz and Bobrovsky are still there, but he says when Knight's ready and that comes to the NHL, there might be a little bit of possibility of them moving Stolarz. So that's going to be an interesting situation to watch out for. And he said that Detroit's still injured right now with Husel being out. I would expect when Husel gets back, there will definitely be a lot of talk about them moving Reimer. So that's going to be a situation to watch out for, but at this point in time, they're not ready yet to move any sort of goaltender. So according to Elliot Friedman, at this point in time, the Leafs, Oilers, Devils, Canes, and Kings are all buyers in the goaltending market. The Canadians, Ducks, Jackets, Hawks, and Sharks are all sellers on the goaltending market. And at this point in time, the Flames, Red Wings, and Panthers have not yet made a decision. So we'll be interested to see. But those are the goaltending markets as of right now. It'll definitely be interesting to see which goaltender winds up getting moved first and to which team. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of goaltending moves this year, and it sounds like it could happen in not just in the future. So it will be interesting to see. But as we get closer and closer to trade deadline, there are going to be more and more teams who are desperate in need of goaltending. I think that we will see a couple of really big goaltending moves before the trade deadline. So definitely, that's all I'm going to talk about for today. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of this down in the comment section below. What do you think about the goalie market? Which team winds up making the first move? Is it Toronto, Montreal, Edmonton, Anaheim, Columbus, Chicago, San Jose, Florida, Detroit, LA, New Jersey, Carolina? Which team makes the first goalie move, and who do you think it will be? Definitely let me know what you think down in the comment section. Does Kane get moved by the Detroit Red Wings? If so, where do you think is the best fit for him? Does Jay Guentzel get moved by Pittsburgh Penguins? If so, what sort of a package do you think they would be able to get for him? Or do you think he winds up signing an extension with Pittsburgh? Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on those two things. Do you think Bunting gets moved by Carolina Hurricanes in order to acquire a goaltender? Or do you think he stays in Carolina after signing this offseason? Definitely love to hear your guys' thoughts on all of those things down in the comment section. Plus, what do you think about the injury updates, waiver news, and the one signing in Vegas? Definitely have your guys' thoughts on all of that. But that's what I want to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and if you're related to it, to subscribe down below. If you're interested subscribers, thank you for all of your support. I would never been able to do with all of you guys. So don't forget to subscribe so we can continue and hit 250 subscribers. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that. So definitely check that out. I'll leave a link down in the description below, and I can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. Remember, Happy New Year as we've now hit 2024. See you guys soon.